Tennis won. The men and the women won. Miracles do happen in Philly, and we are looking forward to more of them. Hello, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. BJ Johnson is blowing our minds and filling our hearts with pride. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. Men's basketball is getting set to enter postseason play, and we will break down all the possibilities for the team and what we are looking forward to in the conference tournament.
And later, for the first time this season, Callie Montana joins on desk for Explorer Report.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
Number 1. The women's basketball team may have ended their season. However, Amy Griffin did not finish without leaving her mark as an Explorer. The senior blocked 4 shots in her game against George Mason, which gave her 150 career blocks, breaking the LaSalle record that was previously held by Linda French in the 1980s. Griffin broke the record at the 4-minute and 10-second mark in the fourth quarter, while also contributing a team high of 25 points against the Patriots. Despite a tough loss to George Washington the following week to put an end to the season, Amy Griffin has made her mark as one of the top explorers in LaSalle women's basketball.
Number 2, with just 2 weeks of games under their belt, the baseball team is already giving us plenty to talk about. The men have a .500 record for the first time in a long time and have some weekly awards to show for it. Senior Chase Arnold was named Philadelphia Big Five Player of the Week and was also named Hitter of the Week by the Philadelphia Baseball Review. Arnold currently boasts a .348 batting average. He had 6 RBIs and 2 home runs this weekend against the Citadel, one of which was a grand slam. Freshman Tommy Toll was also lauded this week as the A10 Rookie of the Week. Toll had posted a team-high batting average of .571 against the Citadel. The freshman had 3 RBIs and 2 runs scored on the weekend.
And number 3, BJ Johnson has been slaying the souls of SportsLine with his dominant performances over the last few games. With those impressive showings, he has earned himself not 1 but 2 honors in just 2 days and reached a career milestone. On Monday, Johnson was named Atlantic 10 Men's Basketball Co-Player of the Week, and the following day he was announced as the Philadelphia Big Five Player of the Week, making it his 3rd time this season. Johnson has averaged 26 points and 16 rebounds over the past two games last week. During a phenomenal performance against nationally ranked Rhode Island, Johnson earned 29 points and 23 rebounds. Against the Rams, he also posted the 2nd-best rebounding performance in NCAA Division I and came close to breaking the A10 single-game record. His epic play did not stop there, as he showed out against Fordham as well. With an 8 for 11 performance from the field, he also earned his 1,000th point in his less than 2-season career as an Explorer. Johnson's season statistics have made him one of the top players in the league and a senior that will be greatly missed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's enough that we can say about BJ, but I want to get back to Amy a little bit.
Yeah.
Amy's first now in blocks for LaSalle women's basketball. She's also 3rd in career points.
Yeah.
So I think the script said it right. There's no way she has left her impact on this team perfectly.
And now she's going to go down as one of the,
she's definitely
top
one of the greats that we've had at LaSalle for women's basketball.
And I think
sure.
that went underappreciated for a little bit with her.
Yeah.
I don't think she really I think she got the recognition she deserved, but not as much as she should have.
I think last year we heard a little bit more about her. The team was a little bit more competitive. But I think looking back at it, give it a few years, she'll really go down as one of the greats for him.
Yep. Well, that's all we got for headlines. Let's take a look at how our athletes fared this week.
The men's basketball team came off their big-time performance in a tough loss at home against Rhode Island and looked to capitalize on a matchup against a weakened Fordham side. The game was an Explorer explosion of sorts as the offense came out firing and the defense looked intense as the boys in blue and gold held a 40-19 lead at halftime and never looked back. B.J. Johnson was still the man for the Explorers, scoring 23 points and falling 1 rebound shy of yet another double-double. And Tony Washington had a feast in the paint, scoring 14 points and hauling in 11 boards en route to a 73-60 LaSalle win. The Explorers came home for their final home game of the season, and what a final home game it was for a few of our seniors. Steve Silvestro has the coverage.
The men's basketball team looked to hold down the fort in the final home game of the season, and the final home game in the careers of Tony Washington, Johnny Schuler, Amar Stukes, and B.J. Johnson, as Dayton visited the Tom Gola Arena on February 28th. B.J. Johnson kept his hot streak going as he put up 27 points and lit a fire under the Explorers with a few thunderous dunks. The game was Johnson's 17th game of the season with at least 20 points. Johnny Schuler also put up a solid performance, dishing out a career-high 11 assists. Tony Washington and Jameer Moultrie both contributed mightily to the result as they scored 14 and 13 points respectively. The Explorers' defense continued to show an upward trend in intensity as they held the Flyers to a 40% shooting night and only 22 from the three-point line. The defensive effort showed in the turnover department, causing Dayton to turn the ball over 9 times in the first half. The offensive output from the team's key players and the stout defense led to a big 71-53 Explorers win. For SportsLine, I'm Steven Silvestro.
The women's basketball team closed out their regular season with 2 losses. The first was a 58-51 defeat to visiting Davidson. The second game at George Mason by a score of 65-55. Against Davidson, Amy Griffin led a balanced scoring attack with 18 points and also contributed 10 rebounds. The Miller duo of Shalina and Adriana combined for 10 points. Griffin continued using her hot hand as she led all scores with 25 points against George Mason. The Explorers were the 12th seed heading into the Atlantic 10 tournament and had to deal with 5th seed George Washington. LaSalle would end up falling short to the Colonials by a score of 69-49. GW used a 22-10 run in the second quarter to break the game open, and the Explorers were unable to come back from that. Adriana Miller led the blue and gold with 14 points, while Shalina Miller and Amy Griffin added 13 and 12 points respectively. LaSalle finished the season with a record of 8 wins and 22 losses. Whoa.
It's a rough year.
8 and 22. I mean, that's rough, but we did have some standout seniors with Ashanti Freeland and Amy Griffin, and we're really going to miss them, and we hope that this team's able to come back, competitive, a little more competitive next year.
Yeah, and there's still some pieces left behind that are really solid players. Shalina, Adriana Miller,
yep.
Shaq. There's still players on the team that can really contribute to a winning team.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we lose Amy and we lose Ashanti, but hopefully
they can gel.
Yeah, hopefully there's a little more composure next year and we move ahead a little bit.
Yep.
Members of the men's and women's diving team certainly made a splash in the ECAC diving championships this past week at Rutgers University. 3 Explorers made an appearance, with all 3 divers posting a top 4 finish. Senior Dylan Urasitz came out on top in the men's 1-meter dive event, posting a first-place finish. Fellow Explorer sophomore Blake Griffith came in not far behind with a second-place finish. From the women's team, senior Zidney Zopo placed 4th in the women's 3-meter dive event. The Explorers are now sure to be preparing for the NCAA Zone A Diving Championship coming up later in March.
Baseball took on the Citadel for a 3-game series, but the Explorers fell short in Game 1. Citadel was able to come up with a run after a pair of errors to take the 7-6 win in the 15th inning. In the second game, LaSalle started off with a bang thanks to a grand slam by Chase Arnold, but they could not hold on to their early lead and lost 8-7. The Explorers continued their hot hitting in Game 3 and won 6-4. 7 Explorers had a hit and 3 of them had a multi-hit games. LaSalle came up with a big 12-1 win against Maryland Eastern Shore. The Explorers had 15 hits throughout the game, and Brian Dudek had a strong day at the plate. The senior went 3 for 4 and was a homer away from completing the cycle. The Explorers are now 4-4 on the season. The last time they reached 4 wins before the month of March was back in 2015.
The softball team opened their season this weekend by traveling to the Camel Stampede tournament in North Carolina, where they fell in all 4 games. Starting off the weekend, freshman Morgan Orlovsky held Fairfield scoreless in the final 4 frames, but it was not enough as the Blue and Gold were defeated in their season opener 6-0. The shutout would not end there. LaSalle similarly fell in Game 2 to Campbell by a score of 7-0. There, the women were held to just 3 hits. In a more dramatic loss, the team fell to Georgia Tech after being up by 1 run going into the 7th. Back-to-back homers by the Yellow Jackets in the bottom of the frame ultimately lifted them over the Explorers by a score of 3-2. To close out the weekend, LaSalle fell to Campbell again, this time by a score of 10-2.
Lacrosse returned home Sunday, February 5th to take on Central Michigan at McCarthy Stadium. Isaiah Clark has your recap.
Any Sunday afternoon, LaSalle Lacrosse took on Central Michigan. LaSalle put on a goal-scoring clinic, scoring 11 times in the first half, with goals coming from 7 different Explorers. At the half, LaSalle led by a score of 11-3. After halftime, the Explorers continued their scoring barrage, adding 7 goals in the second half, the game ending with a final score of 18-16. In total, 8 Explorers scored as they were led offensively by senior Brittany Edwards, who finished with 5 goals and 2 assists. On the defensive end, sophomore goalie Len Frankel had a season-high 7 saves, and the Explorers gave up their fewest goals since April of 2016. The win is the first of the season and brings LaSalle's overall record to 1-2. For SportsLine, I'm Isaiah Clark.
It's a miracle. Both the men's and women's tennis teams won against the St. Peter's Peacocks. Last week, Francesco Mauri once again proved that he is the hero the team needs but does not deserve. The senior led the team with a dominant first game, destroying the Peacocks' Andrus Jacome 6-1 and 6-0. The danger came after Tomas Christians fell in the second match, and Rogelio Gonzalez lost his first set 6-0. However, Gonzalez had the comeback of his career when he came back in the second set and won 7-6 and swept the third set 6-0. His performance propelled LaSalle to a 5-2 win. The women did even better than the men, starting with splitting the first 2 parts of the doubles match, and they won the third set by default. In the singles competition, the Explorers were cleaning house. This was topped by Jade Smith, who swept both her sets, winning 6-0 and 6-0. Then, to finish the meet, LaSalle won the last 2 singles matches by default.
Yay! The tennis team, yes, we've been waiting for this. This is the first time for both teams that they won in a dual match. I think for the men's, we can thank none other than Francesco Mauri. He's been consistently really, really good for this team, and finally, his team backed him up and helped him with that.
How about Rogelio coming back and making a real stand for the team? Yeah. It's a good, well-deserved win there.
Well, we're excited, and we're waiting for that. We kept the faith, kind of. All right. And that finishes up recaps for this week. But stay tuned, because when we come back, Steven Silvestro makes his return with some basketball gurus to give us the inside scoop on our Explorers. Stay tuned.
Host of LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. Do you know that LaSalle TV is an entirely student-run organization? Probably, right? Do you also know that I happen to know all of the words to Eminem's Rap God? It's crazy, right? It's like 6 minutes. I'm not going to do it here, but just trust me that I know the words.
Welcome back. Steven Silvestro sat down with SportsLine correspondents Josh Abrams and Selena Bemak to chat about some blue and gold basketball. Take a look.
Hello and welcome to the brand new Sports Chat. That's right. We're talking men's basketball, and I've got the great Josh Abrams and the fantastic Selena BMAC. This is going to be a great show right here. Sports Chat. Here we go. I'm going to start this off. We're going to talk about the A10 bracket as it currently sits. Right now we have URI as number 1. They're ranked 17th in the nation, and we got St. Bonnie's and Davidson at 2 and 3. They're all locked in. Now from 4th through 12th is only a 2-game difference between everyone. There's 1 game left, but like with the only 2 games, everybody's got ridiculous tiebreakers going on. LaSalle currently sits at number 12, which is the last of them, and they can move as high as number 9, depending on if they win on Saturday against St. Joe, and they can go all the way up to past Duquesne, George Washington, and Dayton. Let's hope we can do it. But let's start off. With how it sits, we're going to be facing UMass or Fordham in the first round. We win on Saturday, we don't have to play in that first round. How do you think we'll face off against St. Joe real quick?
Well, I mean, we've beaten St. Joe's before. I believe we beat them at home because we're traveling to St. Joe's on Saturday. But you know, the team is playing well right now. They've won their last 2 games, which really does not say much. But the fact that they have been able to bounce back from all those tough losses in the A10, it kind of gives you a lot of confidence, especially when they handled Dayton last night pretty well, winning by 18. The score was a little bit closer than indicated. But you know, the team's playing well right now, and I think once they get fully healthy, they can make some noise.
Yeah, I think they are going to have to give it their all against St. Joe's. St. Joe's is a slightly better team than the Explorers, but I think LaSalle still has a shot. The one thing for me is that LaSalle is 2-9 on the road this season, so that's one thing that's really going to get them. I know on the road is a relative term here because they're still going to be in Philadelphia, but it's not their home stadium. They obviously do much better with home field advantage.
Yeah, and like you guys said, you said they won their last 2. In their last 4 games, they have pretty much, they've definitely dominated the boards with that. Of the last 4 games, they won 3 of them, and their 1 loss is to number 17 in the nation, URI, in overtime.
Yeah.
But one key thing you guys can really see is Tony Washington stepping up in the last. He averages 7 points per game and 6 rebounds over the entire season. But in the last 4 games alone, he's averaging 13 points a game, which is, and if you take the total, that's 25% of the points he scored this year is right in the last 4 games.
Yeah, and his emergence, not just offensively but defensively as well, I feel like he's really starting to come along. And I think another big thing is that Miles Brookins is starting to get some playing time, get some key quality minutes in there too. The 2 complement each other really well. I like both of them. Tony's a really, really good post player and a presence down low. He has been a bit questionable with his defense here and there, but I feel that as a senior, he wants to obviously end his career on a high note. I think him performing the way, like you said, the way he's been playing the last 4 games is really going to be important, because if Tony Washington's playing well, you know we're going to get contributions from BJ, Pookie, and Saul. Tony has been a little inconsistent, but for him to bounce back these last 4 games, I feel like that's giving him a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Josh. He has had that inconsistency, but right now he's finding his stride, the right place at the right time. Like if there's any time to really pick it up, this is the time, the end of the season, find that momentum going into the A10 tournament and keep it moving from there.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, you going off of it's going to add other people. But with Pookie Powell, he missed Wednesday's game against Dayton with a head injury. So how do you think him coming out of the starting lineup could affect this team?
Well, I think last night when LaSalle took down Dayton, LaSalle actually shot pretty well, and I don't know if that is, because as a result of Pookie being out, but LaSalle looked really efficient on offense, and it definitely helped that Dayton wasn't shooting well. Mm-hmm. They shot pretty bad from all aspects of the game. It is going to be interesting to see how Pookie comes back, especially from no matter how severe or non-severe it is, a head injury is a head injury. It's really going to be interesting to see how he bounces back.
Yeah, it is. But it's also a testament to the team that they were able to win without him, especially since he's one of their key starters. I know Pookie has played over 1,000 minutes this season, which is, I think, one of the team highs, if not a little less than Amar Stukes, I think. But he also has 119 assists, which is a team high. And While I think that's a great thing, his defense is also questionable, and he also has 76 turnovers this season, and also a team high. So team highs on both the positive and negative ends of the spectrum here. But Pookie definitely is an instrumental player that has been missed. But it is going to be interesting to see how he recovers, if he can, before the season's out.
And I know this is you're gonna like this, Selena. I want to go to Amar Stooks. He has played 1,096 minutes. He's the only starter to start all 30 games. He's only sat down for about 150 minutes the entire year. So he's averaging 8.6 points per game, and he's shooting a free throw percentage almost 90%. So he's your senior leader right now. How much does it mean for him to step up right now?
You know, I'm a very big fan of Amar Stooks. I know, Steve, you said I'm going to like this. He's a local guy, LaSalle College High School grad, then comes to another LaSallian school. And his first couple of years here, he was kind of flew under the radar here. But now, like, he's really finding his senior stride. Like you said, played the most games out of anybody, over 1,000 minutes starting. He also has 98 assists per game. So I think Amar Stooks fits well into the architect that Coach G has with this team. He also is one of the better defensive players on the team. I know that's something that LaSalle struggles with a lot, is their defense, but he is one of the better players. So it's going to be sad to see him go at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Amar Stooks has definitely been the most consistent player, especially because he's been able to play in all 30 games. You look at some of the seniors, we did talk about Tony Washington, but B.J. Johnson was hurt for a while, and obviously it's very hard to replace B.J. Johnson's stats with just one player. But for Amar Stooks, he's been very consistent all year, and he's been able to find his stride. He's very consistent. There's been little stretches in games where he's been able to get hot from beyond the arc, and as you said, that near 90% free throw percentage is probably the biggest reason why LaSalle really excels at the free throw line. Usually those shots can make or miss. They can decide the game. Yep. And Amar Stooks is a veteran leader that is very valuable.
All right, and let's go to the fan favorite everybody loves. We're going to end on him. We're going to go to B.J. Johnson. He's currently averaging 21 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game. He's got an 86% free throw percentage, and for a guy that takes so many shots, he's got a 45% field goal percentage. We're talking about stars. We're talking about an NBA prospect right here. I know he's going to be the star. We're going to revolve around him when we go to the tournament. But how important is it to consistently keep up his 20-point games?
Last year when we had Jordan Price, BJ kind of seemed like Price's protege, like an up-and-coming guy for the Explorers, and now we've kind of seen that really come to fruition this season. I mean, the dude is eligible for the draft if he wants to, and so he is a key player. He is their #1 key player. I know he's injury ridden, that's something that he has struggled with, but if he can keep up his consistency, what does he have, over 500 points this season? If he can keep that up and playing at the level that he does, he really is such an instrumental part of this team. Yeah,
he eclipsed the 1,000-point mark, and BJ is definitely going to be somebody that we need to have as a monstrous game like he did the other day when he had that 30 game.
All right, I want to thank Selena and Josh for coming on for the first edition of Sports Chat. You're welcome, Dave and Callie. But I'll send it back to Dana and Tegan to talk more.
Thank you, Stephen, for our first edition of Sports Chat. And when we come back, Callie will be breaking down lacrosse. Stay tuned. There's plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us welcome Callie Montana for this week's Explore Report.
Thanks for having me. But lacrosse is coming off a big 18-6 win against Central Michigan and are now 1-2 on the season. The Explorers will look to continue their winning ways against Marist on Saturday, March 3rd at McCarthy Stadium. Marist is 2-1 on the season and is coming off a 10-19 loss against UMass. Players to watch out for are Morgan J. Cox, who got things going against UMass and put the Red Foxes on the board. J. Cox has scored 5 goals during the first 3 games of the season. Midfielder Haley Wagner also scored 2 goals against UMass, which brings her total goals up to 6. Senior Lauren Mazza has a big game and scored 4 goals, which was most scored by a Red Fox throughout the game. If LaSalle is looking to come up with another win, they will need a big performance from Brittany Edwards. Edwards had a big game against Central Michigan and scored 5 goals and had 2 assists. Another key player is the team's leading scorer, Bridget Ruskey. In the last game, Ruskey found the back of the net 4 times on 6 shots. There is a ton of talent on this team, but they need to keep up their composure, especially if they're going to get the lead going.
Thank you. That freshman, man, Bridget Ruskey, we're going to have to look out for her. Yeah. So we're going to go right into picks. Tegan, let's hear your prediction.
I've got the Explorers 15-13. I think it's a big offensive game for both teams. I think we come out on top.
And I also have taken LaSalle 17-8 because I think I trust them. I trust these guys.
Well, I'm saying Marist 14-11. There's a lot of seniors for Marist, and we're filled with a lot of freshmen. So that's how I see it.
No
I'm
fake
sorry.
Cali, Montana.
A lot of experience versus a little. Never ashamed to go that way.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other events by visiting goexplorers.com or checking out this week's edition of the Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Josh, Selena, Callie, and our entire SportsLine team, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.